What's going on, traders? Happy 4th of July. My name is Shark. Thank you so much for joining me here on the monthly update of futures analysis market breakdown. As I mentioned, my name is Shark, and we're going to be going over ES and Q, some monthly charts, daily charts, weekly charts, some day trading levels, as well as some ancillary data points that I look at. Helps me formulate a game plan for the next couple of weeks into the market. And again, hope everybody's having a great 4th of July weekend with family and friends, decompressing a bit. Summer is in full swing. Reminder though that this video is for education and entertainment purposes only and in no way should be viewed as financial advice. So let's take a look at the economic calendar for this week. I don't think we have too much going on. Short week ahead here with the as a matter of fact, has it even? Okay, it has updated with the holiday weekend here, and really not too much going on. ISM manufacturing at 10 o'clock. FOMC minutes on Wednesday, July 8th at 2, but we all know what's kind of the gist of that. Consumer credit at 3, initial jobless claims on the 9th. So really not too much this week to speak of as far as the economic data front, but hey, it's a new month here, start of July. Let's take a look at what we have so far on a longer time frame here. Of course, we had that sell-off in March with the geopolitical tensions, and then since then it's been up and to the right. And with that said, we kind of mentioned in our last video that was expecting a bit of sideways action coming now that after we rallied from the March lows, and let's just take a look at this again from the March lows about on ES about just about 1,300 points to the upside. So now that we've run here and displaced, broken over, right, a break of structure right here, and now that we have that break of structure and we have run for the last 2 months, we're seeing that sideways action as we build up more steam for either the next push higher or potentially some downside action. And it's been very hard to be a short within the last couple of months. That being said, did have a little bit of downside action in June. VIX got a nice pop up into the 20s again, but that, as you can see here from the candle, that was really paired off. Sellers were not able to see any follow through. We definitely would need to break below this break of structure for anything really for them to get going. And you can see here by the wick, they were just unable to do that. And here we have our new monthly candle opening up. So what is this kind of looking like for now? Well, high and tight flag really looking to form. And from the monthly perspective, really, I mean, unless we break this area here, right, what is this? Basically the yearly highs back at 77,000 basically. Unless we get under that, really no issue. And even if we came down lower, this probably would be a weekly lower, a higher low. So if we came down here, we could look for a trade back up. But even if that didn't happen, we have another structure break right down here. That's really not an issue. I don't know why that drew that like that. That really wouldn't be an issue for the bulls to come back and retest. So that really does not scare me at all. And why is this doing this? Let me change my, I'm not sure why that happened. Hold on, let me get my, okay, there we go. Right, we have another break of structure right there. So even if we pull back here, we can get a bounce or even a pullback here. We do have the monthly 9 and 20 also showing some defense here. So I don't even know if we would get to this structural retest. We could just come down into the monthly 20 and bounce from there, right? This probably down here would be a monthly higher low, and this would be a weekly higher low being set in. So structurally speaking, really no issues from my perspective. But let's mark off these levels anyway, and we'll put them on here just to have as we go through this and see as we move on to some smaller time frames. Still overbought here on the monthly. We've been watching that for a while, but no big issue here. All right, we're seeing that real balanced price range here being developed for the bulls, right? You can see right here, really haven't been able to displace and make a new higher high or a lower low here on the weekly. That's very crystal clear, and this balanced price range being created right now for both sides, so neither up nor down, but we have some nice structure now that we can trade off of here. Some equal highs right over this would be the break of structure, and if we really got underneath right this area here, this would be the break of structure to the downside. So from the weekly perspective, 76.26, and the high there, we've actually have a sweep on both sides here, sweeping and then recapturing into the balanced price range. And here we had a little sweep on the week of the 15th as well. So we've got some weekly levels now here drawn out for us under 73.40. We could look for a little bit more downside, potentially coming into that weekly low here from the beginning of the month of June in the 8th. Otherwise, we'll really look to come up higher and retest those new highs very nicely, hugging the 9 here. And we are a little bit spicy on our overbought, oversold shark momo, but nothing too crazy there. And I'm sure if this balanced price range does continue sideways, what will end up happening is very slowly this 20 will start to creep up and probably come right up in here. So if we do come down into 73.40s and we have that weekly 20, gosh, I mean, you have two nice really levels of confluence. Not only are we in an uptrend, but then we've got the 20 and a pullback into the discounted part of this balanced price range. So then boom, and we'd have a really nice long there for a shot. So that would be very interesting, something I'm looking at as well. Okay, let's get into the daily chart now. We've got some monthly levels. We've got some weekly levels. Let's take a look at the daily chart here, and we'll illustrate a little bit more of what's going on. And certainly from here, this was our weekly highs, but I could certainly, from this daily perspective, certainly break of structure over in this area as well with these multiple highs. So I wouldn't mind marking off this from that daily perspective, 71.27. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit higher right there. Okay, 71.83. Nice, another little daily area for us to pay attention to as well. Certainly if we get and find some acceptance, certainly weekly acceptance under 73.40, we'll watch out. We got a high traffic zone kind of here with this other balanced price range, but I wouldn't be surprised at that point for us to come down and retest that 70, maybe just 7,200. Market's been so strong, but it could really be that 71.83, so 20 points there and give or take. But that being said, we're still in this balanced price range over 76.25, 76.30. That's going to give us free and clear zone right up into this high here. So that would be a new all-time high test, but we'd have to get up and over that area here. So that will be interesting to see. Going to mark off those previous highs, but I'm going to cut off a left extension, right, do it like this, and there we go for that. Actually, let me activate it. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and just like so. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we've got that all-time high there. So really, this is kind of what I'm looking at. I would say if we get underneath 74.85, that could open up the door to come into the lower part of the balanced price range. So that's about our equilibrium there. So under 74.85, I think bulls got a little bit of strength there. No issues here on the daily. Overbought, oversold. Volume's okay. And we're over the 9 and 20 for the bulls here. So it really just kind of looks like we're going to start to potentially flag out, to be honest. Kind of looks like a bull flag here. These wicks certainly are something to be a little concerned with every time we've tried to get higher. It hasn't been able to, but we'll see. Might need a little bit more sideways consolidation before we're able to see that. But either way, I think, at the very least, we'll be able to come back up and test these equal highs up in the zone at 7600, 7625 area, 7615, somewhere in this zone. Would not surprise me to see that next. Could be nice and double top, though, if we get those equal highs or relative equal highs, and then maybe potentially short there on the daily. And this would, being up over that 7630, would truly neutralize the potential downtrend. Because overall, I mean, we got our swing high here, a lower high here, lower high here, right? But we do have a swing low here and a relative marginal higher low here, and this is certainly a higher low, so we'll see. Everything really depends on the 74.85, so I'll be watching out for that. Certainly could make a some type of a case for us, a compression here kind of taking place, something like that, right? And we're trying to maybe go out sideways like this and then break up and over and then something like that as well. So that's another potentiality we have here on the SPOOs. Okay, let's get over and let's get into some day trading levels that I'm watching here for the next couple of days. Let me extend this for you guys. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. If these update and if I see something different on Sunday or Monday, I'll certainly post them and update everybody on those. So let's just talk a little bit more granularly now from the day trading perspective. What would they need to hold? 75, well, basically 75.50, 75.49. Now we did break it a couple of times here. You can see we traded down 75.45 thereabouts, but as long as we hold 75.49, 75.50, really have no issues. Need up and over 75. 57, 75, 60. We can see those pushes up to these equal highs here, 75, 65. Over that, things get a little bit more interesting. We can look at these equal highs here, 75, 73, 75, 77. That will be my target. About 11 points over 75, 65. That's what I'd be looking for over that. And then we can go ahead and talk about retesting these highs up here in the 75, 98, and maybe the 90s there. All right, let's talk about the bears. Need under 75, 45 if you really want to be safe, but 75.49 opens the door. Got to break this low though. 75.41, that's really where it gets interesting. And here, at least on the 10-minute, that's where we have the 200 SMA breaking under there. All right, we have a bit of traffic here in the 75.40s, but breaking under that 75.33 and under that 75. We'll call it 25, 26 right there. We can get down here into these lows, as you can see right here. A lot of action, but we might not even get there. You can see a lot of traffic here, so we could stop there. Also have some traffic in the 75.40s, so I'm not sure if they come in and bid that maybe 8 points or so above that 75.33 target, but certainly get under that. I'd be looking for these lows down here in the 25s. So that's what I have here for the SPOOs. All right, let's get keeping it rolling. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100. Let's get on to a monthly chart here and see what we can take away. Now, the chips have been interesting. Chips have been a lot weaker, and it's kind of been a rotational market, you noticed. We've got one day with the market, with the banks strong and chips are weak, and then they flip and it goes back and forth. So it would be very interesting. It would be very interesting to see if that rotation happens, but hold on a second. Okay, so let's take a look at the monthly chart here, and we still have this structural retest that's very viable for us. So, I mean, from the monthly perspective, and really, I mean, it could really even be down to here, to be totally honest. I got an equal high. These are almost equal highs as well. But 70, excuse me, I'm still on ES mode. 26, 822 to 26, 325 really have no issues for me for the bulls, so we can pull back. I will say though, at least from the monthly perspective, very overextended from the 20. I mean, look at this. Let's just see how many points this is high to low where we are, because I think that'd be interesting. But definitely extended here, 5,000 points from the monthly high of July all the way from the 20. So definitely a bit extended. Could use a little bit of pullback. Kind of same scenario here. We had the pullback right into the monthly 20 and then ram, higher. Big pushes up and no issues there. Okay, beautiful. Love to see that. All right, so I mean, from this monthly perspective, I mean, this is our first monthly candle, but I mean, unless we got under the monthly lows, I really don't see an issue there overall for the bulls. We'll mark off the lows from last month just to have it. Let's jump into the weekly chart here and see if we can't get a little bit more clarity. Same balanced price range, right? And it's a great range to trade. Don't get me wrong. 29,000 here, all the way up to basically 31,000. So huge range to trade. Not really an issue as far as that's concerned. But we do have that balanced price range and a very strong structure to be able to trade off of. We've got some equal lows right here, so we'll mark that off for our equal lows. And then we've got some nice equal highs in this area that we can throw in as well. So we've got sideways like this, and we wait for that structure break for either up and lower or down and lower, as we went over in the spools. If we want kind of an equilibrium here, I'm going to go ahead with these two equal highs from back in the beginning of May, the week of 11th and 16th or 18th, excuse me. And I'm going to throw that under there. So that could be our warning sign right here, as if we fall underneath. Let's put that out. Boom. Okay, I don't know how thrilled I am with that one. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. It could be just a wee bit lower. We're going to take a look at the daily chart, see if I can get that a little bit more concise. This is not bad, though. 29,700. If we start to get below that, and certainly below that daily 9, we'll look to attack the bottom part of this balanced price range back in the 28,700s and potentially down 28,170 and the 28,170s. Also possible, but certainly staying over 27,700 can give us moves back up into these equal highs here in the 30,600s, right? Let's take a look at the daily chart. Now we're seeing some momentum here, though, kind of coming up, and we are still in the uptrend, pushing up over the 9 and 20 here still in the weekly, but momentum here coming a little bit, getting a little bit weak still, a little bit oversold, but wouldn't mind a little bit of a reset there and have this kind of trickle down here, and then kind of see something like that if you're bullish coming into the zero line. I don't know if we actually I'm going to hit that zero line. The market's been pretty strong, but we could get close and do something like that and bring us back up. That's also a possibility as well. So let's go on here. Let's take a look at the daily chart and see if I can't really nail something down. I feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, it's not horrible, but I just don't know if I mean, we have that. Yeah, I think that this is fair. We need over that 20, is that 30,000, 630, 615. Then we can go ahead and attack these highs right here. 20, that's about 30,000, 31,000. Start to get over that, and then we can look for these next equal highs. So, gonna need to break over, right? And then we can get into here. We get over that, and then we can break up and over and come into here. So that'll be my pathway for the bulls. But if we hang out around here, right around that 29,700, start to see some daily acceptance right underneath, start to see some candles start to form like this, all right, and closing underneath this level like so. Well, then I'd be kind of more in the idea of us kind of rolling back down and seeing some trading down in this area down here in the 28,700s, and as I mentioned, the 28,200s as well. So that's what I would kind of be looking for, only if we're underneath, right? And we've already kind of been up and over the idea of what we'd be looking for if we are over, right? So we'd be looking for that. So that's what I've got here on the daily charts. Let's take a look at the day trading levels and see what we can take away from that perspective. Let's throw it down here. All right, we'll do a 5-minute chart. That's fine. Okay, boom. All right. Okay, looks like these ones are not going to be okay. I'm going to have to redo these. When the market opens. Okay, so we can pull something else up here to get us through this. Do it this way, sure. Okay, so from the day trading perspective, what do we got here? We need to hold over 29,875. As long as we hold over that, really no issues. Bulls need to get a new higher high, get over 29,930. That can give us trades back up into this area right here. And these equal highs, and that would be right around 29,950 thereabouts. Up and over that 29.60. Over 29.60, we'll talk about 30,000 again, right? 30K. Up and over that 30,000. I believe we have a pit stop in the 40s, but ultimately 30,061 would be my next guess for the bulls. Underneath 29,875, we could see lower, a lot of traffic here, as you can see. So we could see some bidders come in 29,850s, but ultimately I'd be looking for on a clean break of that with volume and acceptance underneath 29,875. We can come down 29,825, 830. Looking for those lows. Now, the sells, we have nice confluence there with the 5-minute 200 SMA. Breaking under that, though, under 29,800, 29,825, easily sell down a bit lower, 29,777. You could see a little bit of buyers come in, I would say, right around the whole number, 29,800. That wouldn't surprise me either, but certainly under 29,800 we can go down another 25 points thereabouts and see what happens at that 29.77. So that could be interesting as well. So we have a pathway here for the bulls, like so. Boom, boom. We'll see if we get over these highs. Maybe we come back down, then we bounce, then we can talk about 30,000, or we need underneath, displace down, maybe we bounce back up. Maybe we sweep it, bounce back up, and then we sweep again, do something like that. I'm just being creative here. And at the 29,800, break under that. Maybe we get something like that. And back down. So we have a pathway intraday here for the bulls and the bears. Now let's take a quick look. I don't think I had the time, and I don't think I updated our futures VIX, but that's okay. We'll take a look at our other ancillary data points as well. Thank you again so much for joining me here on this market update. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Share the video if you've learned something. If you find this helpful, really appreciate it. Okay, let's looking at the breadth here. How many stocks in the S&P are trading over their 50-period moving average? Looking really good, up over 60, over 50%, over 60%. Let's see, we should be heading for that 75% marker here. Everything's looking good there. Free and clear on the 200 SMA as well. Beautiful, over 50%. No issues there. New highs versus new lows. Not super strong, but over zero. That's all we really care about. Looking good there. A little bit of divergence. New highs versus new lows, and SPY's actually looking down here, but that's not really anything that I really look out for as far as divergences, but that's interesting. Let's see if there are any divergences here. No, in lockstep here with the junk bonds. Let me activate this and bring it along, but no divergences there really sticking out to me. And let me throw this here. Boom. So nothing really too interesting there. Okay, let's move it along to the bonds. So some weakness in the bonds. We had TLT really tried to get up over this spot, at the 86, it was 86.90, basically 87. Couldn't do it. Back down to the lows. Not looking good so much for the bonds. So this is TNX probably still giving us some issues here. Overall, let's take a quick look at credit spreads. Credit spreads here. This one's still been interesting. Okay, not totally risk off yet, but this is interesting. This is still risk off, risk on. Okay, so our first credit spread risk on, not an issue there. Nothing to be worried about. This one's signaling potential risk off, but let's watch how this hangs out around the 50 and see if it gets over. And that could be interesting to me, but nothing happening there. Okay, but some new definitely updates here on our bond ratios. The bottom three, I'm trying to get back over the 50. We could just see this roll over and head down here. That would be ideal for the bulls. Shorter term, bonds getting over the 50 though, but let's see how the longer term spreads end up working out. And TNX could just roll over here, and the if this is the case, so this is kind of undecided, but potential warning sign for TNX here if these longer term bond spreads get underneath each other. So that will be interesting to watch. And then speaking of TNX, why don't we just pull that up right now? Where do I have it? The dollar and the yields. Let's see. Dollar still over 100. TNX here bounce off the 4.36. So big bounce right here, but again, just as we saw the bonds on the spreads being able to potentially roll over right here, 4.48, big spot for the yield. So this could just head down, and of course that would take our bonds up, as we were just saying before, where they could just bounce right off that 50 or reject right off that 50. Nice run on the dollar all the way up to 101.80. Couldn't break over though. We had a level 101.83, 88 there, very close, bouncing off our 150 cents though here on the dollar, and reset now on the 4 hour. We're getting a little overbought here, but momentum shifting, so this could hold. Let's see what happens at 101.30, but if it starts to break over, then we can talk about attacking these equal highs again. If it gets over that 102, 101.83, well, then we'll be talking about some higher prices, maybe potentially that 103 level, so that'll be interesting, and seeing how the market reacts to that higher dollar coming in, but that's yet to be seen, though. It's overall, though, it's looking pretty strong and looking pretty decent, and we'll see what happens. Still not over the daily 9, but over the 20, so no real issues there. So dollar could cause some headwinds, yet to be seen, though, overall. All right, we've gone over credit spreads. Any divergences going on here in the... Oh, yeah, a little divergence here. Dow, new highs on the Dow. What is this? 52,900, basically, with transports. I mean, transports did the run first, made this huge divergence, right? We were all the way up here in April, and gosh, I mean, in April, we were all the way down here, not even close to the equal highs, but we're still holding this area here that I was looking at some longs. Let's see if we can actually get up and over this time. Should be able to, and go ahead and get these in lockstep. So slight divergence on the Dows, but nothing really too crazy overall. All right, inverted ZT, what are rates doing? Up? No, nothing. Okay, this is still heading up, telling me that we're not looking at any potential rate cuts quite yet. We need this to kind of roll over, and that, and that would be kind of signaling more of the rate cut potentiality, but for now it doesn't look like anything's happening on that front. Still nothing really to be expected, at least from the inverted 2-year bond. Put call ratio, taking a look. Okay, got a little spicy up here, nothing too crazy. Band still in our balance. Skew looks a little higher. It's taking forever to load. I'm not going to be waiting on that. Okay, and the volatility, let's see here. I don't think that this is updated, so I'll have to see. Doesn't look updated, but 1-day VIX, nothing really. Let's see if we can hold that 1575, 15 area on the VIX. Big spot here, so we could see a spike in volatility. But the VVIX, volatility of the volatility, under 100, under 93. Volatility of volatility looks weak. VIX 1 day looks weak. This is kind of regular VIX's last leg, and if I see anything interesting. I'm sure we're probably pretty much still in contango. So I think everything's going to be okay for here. I just need to find the symbols and update the spread for that. I don't really see any issues overall on that front. So I think that that's everything I wanted to go over. Why don't we get into our charts here just one more time? Let's just take a quick look at another way we like to look at breadth by taking a look at the RSP. Okay, new highs. Interesting here. We have new highs on RSP, but not on the regular S&P, not on the SPY. So here we go. This is interesting. The reason this is happening is too because the chip names still, there are some of those Microsoft and some of those chip names are still in the S&P, obviously, and they've been having issues. And as I mentioned, the SPY really has been stronger, but it's been, again, a lot of the heavy lifting has been from XLF and some of the other sectors. So that's why we're really seeing this divergence. And you can see here on SMH, the semiconductors, that this is having some issues overall. So this is weighing on SPY, and that's why we're seeing this divergence overall. But I would say this is good because this is a healthy rotation. This is what you want to see in a bull market. And just the fact, if we had RSP also down and SPY down, that'd be a little bit more of a warning sign. But this RSP hitting a new all-time high, this is broadening out of the bullish market. So I would say that this is overall actually a good divergence. We want to see this. I don't like to see SPY ripping up and being high because, and the Qs being up high with RSP lagging, because that means that the whole market's basically kind of holding on a house of cards, right? 7 names, Mag 7, we've all been through that, and we all know this, are holding up the majority of the market, and that's really not what we want to see. We want to have a nice, strong foundation overall. So, but we've already seen the semiconductors, Qs looking a lot more like the semiconductors, having a bit of an issue there. But let's take a look at the QQE, probably a little bit similar. Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit similar, but actually the QQE kind of looks better than the RSP, than the Qs, to be honest, right? Daily 20 here. I mean, that doesn't look bad. That looks like it wants to rise back to the highs. So that's that's not horrible, but the Qs below the 9 and 20, as you can see. So some weakness there, but always like to look at that for some further divergences. So again, thank you so much for joining me on this monthly edition, month of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Edition of the Market Analysis and Breakdown. Really appreciate you taking the time for me this busy weekend, holiday weekend, for prepping before the market opens. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. As we always say, a prepared trader is a profitable trader. So plan those trades and trade your plan. Again, my name is Shark. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you made it this far, again, you learned something, a follow means a lot to me. It's free. And help me grow this channel. A like, a thumbs up, a comment, a share, all goes a long way. So appreciate it so much. Have a happy, safe, great 4th of July weekend, and take care. I'll see you out in the markets.